So let's talk about the whole situation with Rogue, especially after Gambit's, death in season one. You know, I'm sure a lot of people who might be new to the series and because of the series might go back and watch the series it's connected to because it's, a continuation of such. Some might be wondering no, not why, but why is Rogue going rogue? Why would she decide to, side with Magneto and, become potentially a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants or Evil Brotherhood of Mutants and stuff? And here's the thing. I think Angry Joe and people like the Cosmic Wonder, and so on, pretty much said it best. What Rogue's storyline is right now in the cartoon is basically she's going through PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. So basically, for anybody that knows what that is, from what I understand, with the limited knowledge I have on it, you make very rash, if not irrational, I should say, decisions. In other words, you make decisions based on emotion, not based on common sense. And that's kind of what Rogue is going through, or was going through, in the first season, or at least towards the end of it. She was going through emotions. She was making irrational decisions based on emotions. She was blaming the wrong people when she should be putting her blame towards the person that caused all this, which thankfully she did later on. Now, it does seem like, in my opinion, she might still be part of the X-Men. Like she's realizing, she's basically letting her emotions carry her away, and she's making these decisions that are not what she promised to make. In other words, she's going back to, the Rogue she was prior to the X-Men, and it's something that she vowed she never would do. Now, I know some people might say, well, it's a nice wrinkle, for her character, a nice little change for her to be more aggressive and stuff. And that's true. It is a nice change. But with Rogue, she, like Wolverine and Storm, and they said this in the IGN article I read from yesterday in the other audio video I did. Rogue, like Storm and Wolverine, is too much of a popular character to do something different with her that fans would be against. I mean, look, fans are, fine with little changes here and there and making certain characters go through PTSD moments and, character development moments because of that. And that's fine. And sometimes the character will come out, on the other side for the better, with that, with all of that happening. But Rogue is in that category of being too much of a popular character. And how do I know this? Well, it's not just because I'm a fan of Rogue, and mostly every fan that has followed the X-Men for the past 30, 40 years is a fan of Rogue. It's the fact that for a majority of her existence, she has been a mainstay of the X-Men team. No matter what incarnation of the team we have seen, she has been a mainstay. Heck, she's been the leader in certain, I should say, incarnations of the X-Men team. So to go the route that they were teasing, towards the end of season one, is not something that's going to happen. It just shows that anybody, and Rogue is just basically, Rogue and Sunspot, but mostly Rogue, is just being used as a visual example that certain mutants could be, that are trying to believe one direction to go in, could get pushed easily to the other belief in the other direction that someone else is preaching because of what they see, not realizing that there is a greater evil or someone else pulling the strings, in the process. So for anyone that's thinking, they wouldn't make Rogue evil, at the end or throughout season 2, would they? Trust me, they're not going to do that. You see what they did here by displacing certain characters throughout time. They put Rogue on the team or in the same time frame as Nightcrawler, Beast, Magneto, and mostly Charles Xavier. They did that for a reason, and that reason is so she can basically regain and realize, yes, she could still trust and believe in Professor X. But what I think is going to happen, though, is not only is she going to realize she could still do all that, but Professor X as well is going to admit that he himself was wrong in some ways. And what I mean by that is basically he's going to admit that, yes, he still believes humans and mutants can get along, but now he has to basically, help the X-Men and help any other mutants that want that to tell the difference between those that want peace and those that don't. And that includes other mutants and humans that don't want peace and coexistence. So I think that's going to be the lesson Professor X learns, and that's kind of help him kind of understand where Magneto's coming from. Like, yes, I get what you're saying. There are those that don't want peace, and that's on both sides of the spectrum. So I definitely see that as a lesson Xavier learns, and to an extent Magneto learns. And, Rogue, I think, is going to kind of help be that catalyst. Like, she wants to still continue trying to make peace and everything. She's going to see the good that still can be found in humanity, but she's also going to help, I guess, be that deciding factor where it's realized that, yes, there are humans and mutants that want to coexist, but to me, it's going to be that catalyst of seeing that, or making Professor X see that, or remind him of that, but also help him realize that, hey, you're right in one aspect, but so is Magnus. Magnus is also right in the other aspect. Like, basically, there are humans and to an extent mutants that don't want what you want or what you're preaching. They just want control. They want extinction. So I think Rogue is going to serve as somewhat of a catalyst, somewhat of a figure, if you will, a drawing point, if you will, for both the Professor and Magneto to kind of see that, But in the end, I just do not see them, because again, like IGN pointed out in their article, where they talked about Storm and Wolverine being too popular to just wipe out. The same is with Rogue. Rogue, as I mentioned earlier, is too much of a popular character for them to do what they tease to do, towards the end of season 1. She's too much of a popular character to, go to the other side and all that. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, she has been a mainstay of the X-Men team for the past 30, 40 years. And to have her switch over would be nonsense, especially for fans that have followed this character throughout the original series, which again, this is a continuation of. So I do not think, honestly, Rogue is going to go bad. I think what's going to happen at the end of the day, no matter what direction they go in, is she's just going to have to recover, be helped in recovering and getting over her PTSD and learning how to control her anger and not let her anger control her. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense to folks, when I say that, but I think when you see what, she's gone through and all that, it would make a lot of sense that they would probably conclude her story arc, and in season 2, maybe with her learning that, or at least her getting help in doing that. Now, could I see them in future stories? Maybe if they do a 3rd season, could I see them basically, having her go on her own self-discovery journeys and all that? Could I see them doing that? Yes, I can. Because we've seen that in the original animated series somewhat, and we could see it here most definitely, not just in season 2, but mostly in season 3, if a season 3 is greenlit. I can see them do that. Because in the comics, she's done that as well before she's come to realize that she's always belonged where she's at with the X-Men, but through these journeys of self-discovery, she has grown and she has learned to, basically live with some consequences. And as I think she's going to learn as well, not let her anger and not let those consequences, cloud her judgment. So again, I honestly believe, Rogue is going to be fine at the end of the day. I mean, let me tell you something. They have, and this is not just for, this does not just pertain, I'm trying to find the right word to say here. This does not just pertain to the X-Men, no. But this pertains to any other show or comic. We have seen time and time again where the writers, the creators have teased a beloved character switching sides or going, rogue, to coin a phrase, if you will, to paraphrase there, and doing their own thing, but eventually come back. We've seen them do that. And they do that because what they're making you as the viewer or the reader wonder is, well, what if they really truly did go this route full time? It makes you think. It makes you question, okay, what if they really did do this, on a full-time basis? That's why they do it, because it makes you as a viewer, as a reader, question, the what if possibilities. But again, I don't think Rogue, honestly though, is going to go evil. I don't think she's going to go be part of the Brotherhood. What I think is going to happen is she's going to, mutually part with Magneto. She's going to, thank him for the opportunity, but she's going to realize that she's always belonged with the X-Men, and that even though she may not agree with a lot of Xavier's philosophies, she does agree that what he wants is basically the correct thing. It's just going to take, it's just going to take a lot longer to make that a reality. And then, like I said earlier, she's going to probably want to stay with the team because through her as a catalyst, the professor is going to realize that, yes, there is, one side of the equation that wants peace between both humans and mutants, but then there's another side that doesn't. And that includes both, and that also includes not just humans, but mutants as well. So she, to me, is going to be that catalyst to where when she decides to stay with them, it's going to be because the professor will admit that, yes, he wants his dream to become a reality, but he now realizes the only way that dream becomes a reality is to basically single out those that want peace and coexistence and those that don't. So I think she'll be like I said, that main catalyst, that main directional rod that is needed to point both the professor and to an extent Magneto in that direction, to realize the truth. But in the end, she's also going to stay with them because she'll know the professor is the only one that could help her get over her PTSD and help her control her anger and not let it control her. Now, do I think Gambit's resurrection as a horseman of death is going to help her? In a sense, yes, but it might also add to the PTSD. Now, here's the thing about the Rogue and Gambit deal. Rogue going up against Gambit, I think is going to hopefully wake him up. And what that means is Gambit will still be, kind of the horseman of death, design and all that they're going to give him. But what's going to happen is just like with the Archangel, what is it, Worthington or whatever his name is, he basically was able to get back to, sort of being just Angel and all that later on in the series. But with Gambit, I think seeing Rogue and Rogue fighting against him and with the help of Xavier and stuff, I think what's going to happen is he's going to get snapped back to normal, but he'll still have that, he'll still have somewhat of that Horseman of Death design, but he'll slowly get back to being his old self again. And maybe having that design would be a blessing for him because it would enable him to finally touch Rogue physically without, any effects. But we'll have to see. But to me, him returning and him eventually, going back to who he is, the Gambit everybody, is a fan of, I could see that helping Rogue make her decision to stay with the X-Men, because if Gambit decides to stay and realizes, hey, the professor's the only one that's going to help me sort of, figure things out and get me hopefully back to what I look like, that's going to help her do the same thing. Because, she still loves Gambit, so she's going to want to be with him. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, she's going to mutually part with Magneto and say, hey, I appreciate the offer and everything, but this is where I belong, and this is who I truly love, even if I can't touch him. I could see that happening. But overall, though, I just do not see Rogue, going the route that they teased here. Because what they're presenting is her going through PTSD. And letting her anger, let her anger control what she does, and, allowing her to make irrational decisions, which she would never make. So, overall, I don't think anybody has anything to worry about when it comes to Rogue. All this really is helping her to grow her character into something even more so than what she is now. Kind of put her into that potential leadership role of the X-Men that she's had on numerous occasions in the comics. So I don't think anybody has anything to worry about. And again, just like IGN pointed out about Rogue and Storm in their article, when they talked about the season finale, just like they mentioned that they're too popular to be written out, of the show, the same thing with Rogue. She's too popular to have her go, evil or quote unquote rogue, if you will, against the X-Men. Because she's been such a mainstay, of the X-Men and became a fan favorite because of that, there's no way, that they'll decide to go that direction. Because of the fact if they do, they know they're going to get a lot of backlash. And they don't need any more backlash than they're already getting. And that's pretty much the truth. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. What do you feel about Rogue, and her future in the show? Do you agree with what I said, that she's going to stay with the X-Men and that she's going to get help for her PTSD and help to control her anger instead of it and controlling her? And do you think Gambit's return as the Horseman in Death and eventually being reverted back to the Gambit as he, once was, but with this, Horseman of Death look with him, to go with him? Do you think that's going to help her kind of make the decision to stay with the X-Men? Do you think she'll, mutually part ways with Magneto because of that decision? And do you think, they are right? That, the article at IGN is right, that just like Storm and Wolverine, are too popular to write out of existence from the show, do you think the same goes for Rogue? Do you think she's too popular and beloved and a mainstay of the X-Men team, and later on in the comics run, has been the leader of the team? Do you think she's too popular to want to try to have her go the other route? Let me know, guys. Let me know down in the comments as well as in the live chat during the premiere, which, by the way, as described in the description, super chats are open during the live chat of the premiere, and super thanks as well during the premiere and afterwards as well. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. How do you feel about, the direction they've gone with her so far? And do you agree with some of the things I've mentioned here? Let me know, and until then, I am out.